We're back on the Mizell Show.
And today we are talking about privilege.
There's so many kinds of privilege.
There's so many kinds. We're not digging into racial privilege or anything like that. We're actually digging into any privilege.
Any privilege, yeah. And how privilege is such a dirty word.
It's a dirty word. And we kind of dig a little bit more into just the challenge and the struggle that we've been having individually with realizing and not being blinded by our privilege.
Yeah. It was tough.
I think it feels tough for us because we're dealing with it internally.
Yeah.
And trying to process through what does that mean?
What does it mean?
What does it mean? Where do we go with this? How do we live with this? What do we do next? How do we be more aware as the privileges are coming in?
True.
You know, we're the people that we've been able to experience
privilege with.
Perfect.
Welcome to the Mizell Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alanna Mizell, a loving mother of two, a devoted wife to Steven, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Steven Mizell, caring father of two, a devoted husband to Alanna, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizell Show.
Right now. We are back on the Mizell Show, and Alanna is in seventh heaven because both of her kids fell asleep on her, snuggled, knocked out.
My gosh, you guys want to know my love language? My kid's snuggling with
She
me.
loves a good snuggle, and especially when Briggs actually slows down and then starts snuggling and falling asleep, and before we knew it, he was snoring on Mommy. So,
and
it's bedtime.
2 nights in a row.
Yeah, 2 nights in a row.
2 nights in a row, and that is just my dream.
That's your dream.
I love it.
I
love it. And Adele knows it. So if I'm in a bad mood, she'll be like, "Mommy, will you snuggle with me later?"
Adele loves to snuggle Mommy too. Like she loves it. We love it. But yeah, so back again at the Mizell Show, another week.
Yes, and I was actually listening to a podcast by Jen Hatmaker.
Newsflash: Alanna's soaking in knowledge.
Soaking in the knowledge. I do love it.
You do love it.
Love it a little bit.
When's your prime time to listen to knowledge? Come on the treadmill.
On the treadmill, a lot.
Or first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning, or right after I drop the kids off. I usually switch it to change it from Winnie the Pooh's musical songs. The password song is Briggs' favorite song.
Okay.
To
a podcast.
Or a YouTube something, or something.
So you heard a good one this past week.
Heard a great one.
Okay.
On Jen Hatmaker.
Yes. You sent that one to me. Yes, it was a good one.
I did send it to you. I sent it to quite a few people because when you're a couple minutes into a podcast, which everybody's like, yeah, we're waiting for that couple minutes.
Man, our fans are locked in from the jump. They're like, where does their point? That was a good point.
I knew 7 minutes in I needed to send it to somebody.
Yeah. That's pretty quick.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I should remember the girl's name. I think it's Haley Goodrich off the top of my head. But she talked about health at any size, not healthy at any size.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the reason about that was really surrounding, you can be any numerical size. So whether that be weight, clothing, blah, 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 and still have health to you, whether it be mindset, physical, mental, spiritual, relational, all those things. Mm-hmm. And there was one part that she mentioned kind of right when she jumped off, and she said, I realize, and this is the first time I've heard somebody kind of announce their framework, kind of saying, I understand that I'm coming from this point, and you may be coming from a totally different point. So what she was saying was, I realize that I'm a white female in America and have skinny privilege. And I was like, skinny privilege? I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
And so what skinny privilege is the philosophy that you don't necessarily have to think to get one of your necessary needs met, or don't have to think about what's coming next. Okay. So it's really, for me, it's easier to put it into tangible things. So when you go to the airport and you're going to book a flight, do you need to think about getting a seat extender or a second seat?
No.
Okay.
No.
So the size seat is something you've never had to think through, right?
Yeah.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a chair that has arms on it, have you ever had to think about, will I fit or not into this chair?
Yeah. No.
Right? Will that chair break?
Yeah.
Unless it's a child's chair, more times than not, no.
Yeah.
Another one, just, I could go into Target, into Macy's, into, fill in the blank clothing store and generally find my size. Unless it's out of stock.
So she said this is kind of hit you kind of hard from a skinny privilege. You never thought through.
I had never thought of it.
But before you get to that, I also listened to the podcast, and I think it's something that also tell our people or listening, and I think you do a good job of this, but I don't think I do a good job of it. But I was very impressed with her to say, hey, I am knowledgeable of this field, but I'm going to also acknowledge that I am privileged. I'm going to acknowledge that this is my point of view. I am not the greatest person ever. But so many people who go into any kind of thing in terms of health, fitness, they always want to come tell you what to do.
Level of like, I've got the expertise, I've got the clout, I've got the degree.
I really respected her for that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The fact that she said, although I have the credentials, that doesn't mean that we're coming from the same standard.
Yeah.
That's not like positive, negative. That's just fact.
It's just fact. And her acknowledging that and then going to the whole skinny privilege. So when you came home and told me about that, I was like, I started thinking even deeper about privilege.
Yeah. So I was so inclined. I was so heavily processing that. And then from there was thinking about, there was a whole lot of shame that I felt in relation to how awful I had been to my body that was put in a position of skinny privilege. And just mentally how much I'd tear it apart. I'm also reading a book called More Than a Body, and it talks about how your body is, how it's an instrument, and how...
Instrument, not an ornament, right?
Correct.
Yes.
How the world wants, specifically women more so than men, to be seen as always needing to strive for the next thing. So the next diet, the next clothing fad, the next, can I be as lean as this influencer? What if my hair looked more like this? What if I dyed it this way? What sort of appreciation could I have? And just like always, you are never good enough.
Yeah.
No matter if you're too skinny, you're not good enough. If you're too big, you're not good enough. If you're not this side, you're not good enough. If you don't have these accolades, you're not good enough. If you don't have this, you're not good enough. Heaven forbid if you put infertility into the mix, you're certainly not good enough because you should be able to perform and be able to have a child instantly when you want it.
Yeah.
So it was just, that's kind of what the book is about, and just how much we have become desensitized to the unconscious levels of requirement that we are striving to meet. So, for example, when we watch movies, or when so hypothetically, a movie that we've watched recently.
We haven't watched a movie in a while.
A show we've watched recently.
We watched LA Finest.
Okay, LA's Finest. Of LA's Finest, we've got Jessica Alba.
And Gabrielle Union.
Okay. Those girls are dimes, Gabrielle Union, more times than not, is wearing some sort of a crop situation.
Yeah, crop, fashionable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super on trend. Not only that, but Jessica Alba is portrayed as a woman who also has a husband, and now they have problems. So it's kind of a different one. But if you look at who they are, they're very strong females.
Very strong female leads, yes.
But they're not total leads. It's kind of like a quad lead.
It's a quad lead.
So when you look at it from a society standpoint, rarely is there just a female lead without a male lead to balance them out. That is equally as strong.
Okay.
There's a bunch of statistical data in the book. Yeah. And so it was just interesting. Like something that I don't think about. Do I think that I was comparing myself to Jessica Alba and Gabrielle Union? No. But could I have been? Potentially. It was just another person I saw. You also be doing
it subconsciously.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's the whole point of this book, is that it's so inundated in our minds. And I think that's where the skinny privilege reality hit me so hard, is that I'd never thought of it. How much have I never really noticed about my own privilege? Yeah. When I am so hyper aware of the fact that I'm white in correlation to you or correlation to the fact that my kids are mixed. Like, I am so hyper aware of that.
Yeah.
But never have I ever been hyper aware of the fact that I have skinny privilege. And I am by no means skinny.
But just the fact that they're breaking it down for it. Yeah.
But in the reality of what others go through, in their reality, they could be healthy as an ox. It could just be the body form and the genetics that they were gifted. Mm-hmm. Like, one of Steven's cousins is 6'2".
Yeah.
You're trying to tell me she's not healthy?
Yeah.
Like, she's at least athletically, she's healthy. I don't know about her mindset and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But she also can't walk into Target and probably find a pair of pants that's full length that fit her.
This is true. She probably can.
So, like, that's not necessarily skinny privilege. That's height privilege. Yeah. But it's still a privilege.
Still a privilege.
Right? Same thing with her torso.
Yeah.
How hard was it for her to find a prom dress?
No, that's I don't end that. That's something that we as people sit in our bubbles and we forget how privileged that we are. There's a couple things that I wanted to talk about. First, I want to dive into this whole piece of, I think the visualization of you saying that you are not an ornament but an instrument is also very vivid. Because we all see that Christmas tree. We all see different ornaments you put on there. And to you said, it's like, man, that's
not only that, but which ornament are you?
I didn't think about that. I'm talking about the
But like, dig through that. Which ornament are you? And I feel like if you see your body as an ornament, I think the kind of ornament and where it's placed on the Christmas tree changes.
Yeah, because most people are going to be the shiny one that's at the top. They're shooting for that.
That's what they're shooting for. Yeah. But what they probably treat themselves as is the ornament that's on the other side of the tree that actually doesn't get seen.
Yeah.
Because what they're looking at is the shiny ornament at the top, which is actually the influencer that they have their stories, their posts, their likes, all in notification. That they don't miss a thing that they do. Yeah. And if they're doing this workout, I'm going to go do it too.
Yeah.
And nothing against influencers. No. Nothing against them. What I have an issue with is that I've never personally sat there and thought about the ramifications that I have mentally put on my own body, treating it as an ornament. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, you think about that Christmas tree.
I love Christmas trees.
You want to be closer to the bottom because that's where the kids and Santa are, so you can actually see and be a part of it. The further you go up, the further away from what's really happening at the bottom of the tree. But the top of the tree is where everybody's shooting for. But realistically, Adele and Briggs and all the kids are right around the bottom. They're the ones that
It's the reality that the further you get away from reality, the lonelier you get. Like, you don't realize how lonely
you are with the other.
You are when you've sold who you are to be at the top.
Man.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah, think about it. And that's the visual I'm thinking
of that's the other thing.
Like,
talk about skinny privilege, right? Yeah. You talk about these people that might be influencers. You know, you could look at me and myself, and there are times that I am riddled full of mental and physical loneliness. Mm-hmm. Not because I'm actually lonely. My husband is right next to me. My kids are with me. I stated that I love to snuggle with them. But the reality is really knowing authentically who I am is not something I am skilled at.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not even knowing who I am as much as it is loving who I was created to be.
Yeah.
So this week I dyed my hair back its natural color.
Yeah, you did.
With purpose.
With purpose.
Purpose being, one, to save some money. The biggest reason is because this is the color I was gifted by God. And what I realized as soon as I dyed it and came home and then talked to my therapist about was I have been dyeing my hair since I was in middle school.
Did you know that I sell makeup? Not only do I sell makeup, but the makeup that I sell is 3D makeup, which allows you to highlight and contour your face in a super simple compact. As a mom, I could not survive without my simplified routine. Not only that, but it's exactly what you need. Exactly when you need it, all in one spot. Go ahead and check out Alanna Mizell on Instagram or alannamizell.com to learn more.
So I think I was 12 years old when I dyed my hair the first time. So well over 15 years.
Yeah.
Have been dyeing my hair, changing its colors based off of the affirmations of other people versus what do I like?
What do you like?
And I don't know the answer to that.
But you're working towards it, and I think the key is...
I'm trying to figure that out.
I think it's so many things in terms of the privilege piece that I think you also...
Right.
You're acknowledging the privilege. And I think that's something a lot of people would be afraid to do. And when you brought that up to me, I started thinking through, like,
Y'all,
you
it's
know,
uncomfortable to
it's
think
uncomfortable
about.
as hell.
It hurts.
I'm going to be honest with you. It's
well,
very...
Especially
it's
for
tough.
us who talk so much about the platform of privilege and being knowledgeable about empathy versus compassion and those things like that, in realizing that I have been blinded by such a significant privilege that I never thought about.
I think we definitely are blinded by it. I think you have to acknowledge it, but something that when you hit me with this on Thursday, I've really been chewing on it, thinking about it.
What day it was.
Oh, it was, it's been sticking with me. And I think everybody has a privilege in their life that they have to acknowledge. And even if you were sitting here saying, like, oh, I came from a broken home and my dad wasn't around, but you might have had your mom. You might have had your grandmother. You might have somebody there. And so for me, I have suffered through what I'm going to call opportunity privilege. I have been placed in positions by my father's connections, through my connections at MTSU or wherever, that many people would never get that platform. And looking back on it, it's like I really had to step up. And I don't think I would say I've squandered it, because there's people out there that have had privilege.
I don't think that you've squandered it.
But I think it's an appreciation that I now am seeing.
That's the difference. I think that once you realize that you've had a privilege, whether it be skinny privilege, whether it be white privilege, whether it be male privilege,
male privilege,
versus
opportunity,
female, whether it be the fact that you get a secondary education, whether it be that you've never had to second guess or think about a meal being on your table.
The fact that you won't get judged if you get pregnant, you want to keep your track endorsement.
Don't go there. Too soon. The fact that, like, even although in the United States, not every school is great, the fact that you have the option to go to is a privilege.
That is.
And the fact that everywhere in the United States there are buses that can get you to and from school.
You do have a means of
transportation. I'm not saying that you're going to be safe all the time.
I'm not going to say you actually can do it, but there is.
What I'm saying is that is available, whereas there are parts of this world that is not available. A phenomenal book about that is called Half the Sky.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's so hard to read, y'all. It's so hard to read, but it's called Half the Sky, and there's actually a documentary. I think it's on Amazon as well. It's gut-wrenching. But if you want to realize how privileged you are, read about some of these other people.
But I think the thing about it is that when you acknowledge that privilege, no matter what it is, and you start to have that gut-wrenching moment, it gives you a sense of appreciation and of like, man, I really...
But I also think, for me, one of the biggest things, my first emotion... Yeah. So there's 8 core emotions, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you know that from the Disney show?
No. No.
But I learned those emotions from the Disney thing.
It is from, oh my gosh, Voice of the Heart.
Okay.
Something Todd. It's called Voice of the Heart. It's a book, of course. It's a book, and it has 8 core emotions, and it goes through the emotions. Okay, so there's 8 core emotions. There's positive and negative to every emotion. But they're not necessarily bad.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. It's what you feel. So I could feel a certain way over a situation. Steven could feel a certain way. Neither of them have positive or negative connotation. Yeah. So I feel shame. That's a negative connotation, right? I put a negative emotion to that. Shame. So immediately when I heard about skinny privilege, I felt shame on myself because I had been beating my body up for so many years. Diet this, diet that, macro count, beat it up in the gym, just mentally, physically, emotionally tearing it apart. And what I had realized and, emotionally working through is, yes, that is a beautiful privilege, but also giving myself grace for not seeing it until I was 31. Yeah. And also giving myself grace and kind of living in the joy of that it was something I'm gifted and didn't have to work for.
Yeah.
In that parallel to imagery to the gift of Christ. You didn't have to work for him to come.
Hey, yes.
But like, so there's so much of that I'm just wrestling through and really trying hard to, there's nothing wrong that I'm 31 and just heard that phrase and just realized that I have skinny privilege.
I agree with that.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's the other thing is, although you may watch Half the Sky or listen to it or whatever, realizing that there are other people that have less privilege than you isn't to put shame on you.
No, not at all.
It's just to give you more acknowledgement of your reality. And then you've got a choice.
Yes.
Then you ask a question.
Yeah.
So you realize you've got privilege.
You have a choice.
Steven's a black man that's very articulate. You have privilege in that.
Yeah, I do.
You know, you have privilege in the amount of education you've had. You know, I've got a gazillion pounds of privilege.
Yeah.
You know, and so then what do you do with it?
Yeah.
Do you start a podcast and talk about it? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's talking about it at your dinner table. Maybe it's talking to your kids about how privileged they are. And maybe it's a different word that they can better understand. I don't know what I do with it now.
Yeah.
But I know that it's something that was blinded to and I can't unsee.
Yeah. And I think that's so impeccable. And I think a lot of the people that listen to our podcast will appreciate this because, you know, you get in those moments of life and you're like you said, you don't want to feel shame, but you want to acknowledge it. It's okay if you're just
or
now
feel like you're
recognizing
judging other people.
Yeah, it's okay if you're acknowledging it, but I think it gives you a sense of refreshingness because, you know, at the end of the day, you are using the imagery of like you had to do nothing for Christ to die for you.
Right.
You were able to enhance that and have that. So the same thing in terms of this privilege. Like it's with me looking through what I have gone through and seen and heard and feel and realizing, yes, I was put in a really good position. So I'm not going to feel shame, but I'm also going to now be more aware of it and be more acknowledging of it. And not to say I'm going to go out and work harder, but it's about just being aware of it.
Right. And I also think a part of it is just being aware of it and continuing to acknowledge those blessings versus saying, now I'm going to work full steam ahead. No, it's taking a moment, realizing all the beautiful things that you have and have never had to struggle for.
Yes.
And then just taking a moment to have joy in that.
Yeah.
And have peace in that and have a deep breath and look around and be like,
and I think it's something that as we turn the corner on this and head for home, I think you also can realize this. Privilege, in theory, is such a dirty word.
Yeah.
But it's okay to recognize and see, man, I do have a privilege.
Yeah.
And I feel like to a lot of the people out there who have a job, or to the student athletes that are listening, like, you might not be starting, you might not be where exactly you want, but you are on a Division I football roster. You are at this level, and you're getting the chance to compete. And I think today hit home for me with this word because one of our really good friends, family friend, love him to death, Patrick Taylor Jr., he's come back now, and hopefully we'll host him one day on our podcast. But long story short, he's now...
He's a little busy running a football right now.
But the key on this is he's playing, and he's doing better. And so his jersey's now for sale. And Alana's like, ooh, should we buy one? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's just camp. And Alana's like, your boy is in the NFL and has his jersey. Go buy the jersey. Don't think twice about, like, what the offseason might have or how long his contract will be. Like, and that's privilege. The fact that I'm like, oh, but I want to wait. No, celebrate the fact that somebody you truly care about and love is playing in the National Football League and has his jersey.
And the reality is, it doesn't matter if he stops playing tomorrow.
Yes.
Like the pride that I have in Patrick Taylor.
Yeah.
And if there's a little boy that loves him more than anything, it would be Briggs Malone.
Briggs watched the highlights on Instagram
literally
this morning.
PT, come over today. I said, no, PT ain't coming over today.
PT's not coming over today.
But just, look at him run.
Yes.
You know, and the thing is, Does PT have privilege? Yes. Did he abuse his privilege? No.
No.
Did he work through the adversity? Abso-freaking-lutely. And I would say that probably more than 70% of athletes would have folded.
Yeah.
In his case. And some other words that I just looked up, synonyms of privilege, are prerogative. Like, he had a prerogative to work his butt off.
Yeah.
And he literally felt joy through all of the garbage he was dealt.
Yeah.
All of it. Honor, pleasure, exemption, dispensation. I love those. I
like the word honor. Like, that's something that you don't... Yes.
Like, it's an honor that you were gifted for no reason. It was an honor. And, you know, it's an honor for both Steven and I to have known and know Patrick Taylor, and to have and know his fiance as well as we do, and to have 2 kids that have been blessed. Briggs knows no other than PT.
He knows some
you
PT.
know, PT held him at 6 days old. Like, that's his person.
It's his person.
That's his running back in Briggs's eyes.
Yeah.
And what an honor for PT, but what an honor that we were gifted for that privilege for no reason.
Yeah, that's true.
For no reason.
Yeah, you're right.
Other than for some epiphany.
Yeah.
He loved to talk to Steven.
And I love to talk to him. And the connections, that the honor and the privilege I had to be in that season of life. Yeah.
There are so many people that we get to encounter because we are honored to live where we live, to live the life that we've been gifted. And none of that has anything to do with the size and format that I live my body in.
Yeah.
So as I think of my body not as an ornament but of an instrument, that is the exact replication that we're talking about.
Yes.
It's those compassionate moments that have everything to do with what is inside your body and not with how your body looks.
Yes.
And that's what makes Patrick Taylor different.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick Taylor Jr.
Patrick
Same
Jr.
with senior.
Senior's that.
Too,
but and you know, also I think it's an honor to do this podcast with you. I mean, it's something that we appreciate you guys.
Y'all, we don't take it for granted. The fact that we were in the position to be able to do this, sit at our dining room table, get a microphone, and not think twice about buying the microphone. That's a privilege and an honor that we don't process very much.
We don't process
the fact that we are close to a year into this podcast.
A year in this podcast. And now we're just getting all up in our feelings because, you know, 2 people, Dominic and Carson with the K, that just, we were privileged and honored to reach out to 2 people that helped us get this podcast started. So now we got 3 guests we got to bring on now. So we're going to work through those things for you guys. But, like, it's an honor. And it's something that it just...
And you know, that's what Steven and I need to do now, is sit in that joy.
Yes.
Sit in that joy and have the peace in that moment.
Did you ever think we'd do a podcast together?
No. There's not more work that Steven and I have to do just because we were gifted those 3 people.
Yeah.
That's the joy of a gift, y'all. That's the joy of the honor of privilege. There's not more work I've got to do because I was gifted a body that has skinny privilege. But I acknowledge that those 3 people have entered into my life. I acknowledge that my body was designed the way it was genetically, and realize that there are other people who did not get that gift. There are hundreds of billions of people that did not get the gift of those 3 men. There's actually a song, Glad You Exist, by Dan and Jay. And it says there's a couple billion people in the world. But you're here with me.
Yeah.
Y'all, it's an emotional song.
Emotional song.
It's such a good one. But that's what it is, you guys. That is privilege. That is skinny privilege. That is any
opportunity privilege.
That is honor.
It's honor.
And we want you guys to sit in the joy, in the peace of those gifts that you've been given. It is something that Steve and I are struggling with. And I feel like you guys could hear that in our narrative today, and just doing nothing with it.
Yeah.
Other than being content and joyous in it, and not feeling the shame, the guilt, the judgment, and having to go out and do. There's nothing you've got to do.
Yeah.
It was gifted.
It's gifted to you.
For you. We love you guys. We are so grateful. We are honored.
Honored
and privileged to have the Mizell Show. And we are so grateful that y'all keep listening to us. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or we'd love to hear more about your privilege that you've been gifted and just how our episodes are helping you guys just kind of think and process throughout your week. Thanks, guys.
Are you loving The Mizell Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellshow@gmail.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram @themizellshow.